Call to order the Sherburne County Board meeting of February 16th. Please rise for a moment of silence and the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, at this time I'd be looking for an approval of our agenda.
I so move.
Motion made by Commissioner Brandt,
I'll second, Madam Chair.
seconded by Commissioner Dolan. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Oh, do we need to do a roll call vote on this? Roll call vote. Commissioner Dolan?
Aye.
Commissioner Brandt?
Aye.
Commissioner Phobie? Aye. Commissioner Smeezing?
Aye.
And Commissioner Danielowski votes aye. That motion passes. All right, moving on to the next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. At this time, I'd be looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Madam Chair, I'll move approval of the consent agenda as presented.
Motion made by Commissioner Dolan,
I'll second.
seconded by Commissioner Phobie. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Commissioner Dolan?
Aye.
Commissioner Brandt?
Aye.
Commissioner Phobie? Aye. Commissioner Smeezing?
Aye.
And Commissioner Danielowski votes aye. That motion carries. All right, any announcements at this time?
Thank you, Chair Danielowski, members of the commission. Just a couple of announcements. We have been able to schedule a meeting for March 3rd at 6 p.m. for a quarterly meeting of the Township Association. Dan and I'll be getting invitations out. We think it'll be a hybrid meeting, probably a combination of WebEx and in person. We'll most likely be using the boardroom here for the technology. The two topics I think that we'll have on the agenda is one, proposed changes to the Board of Adjustment schedule and ordinance, and also update on COVID-19 business relief and activities in the county. And that'll include probably some more information on vaccinations. Second announcement, just so the board is aware, 30-degree negative air does not do really well on water pipes. So we did have a pipe burst over the weekend. And it did impact portions of the clinic and some of the hallways in the jail. Fortunately, there were no need to evacuate or any problems. We did bring in space heaters, and we are working on repairs as we speak. That's it.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to have our open forum. Anybody wishing to address the board? There was a sign-up sheet in the back of the room. Keisha, do we have anybody?
There is nobody signed up, Madam Chair.
Dan, do you want to turn on your mic?
Thank you. Moving on then to our regular agenda. We have considered approval of the final standard plat of Sumser Farm First Edition. Howard Triggs. Nancy?
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners.
Morning, Nancy.
This is the report from the Planning Advisory Commission, public hearings that were held on January 21st. First item, Sumser Farm in Baldwin Township, 40 acres in General Rural District. Planning Commission recommended approval of the request with the 5 conditions listed in your packet.
All right, any questions for Nancy? I'd be looking then for a motion to approve.
Madam Chair, I'll move approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Phobie,
I'll second, Madam Chair.
seconded by Commissioner Dolan. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. Commissioner Dolan.
Aye.
Commissioner Brandt.
Aye.
Commissioner Phobie.
Aye.
Commissioner Smeezing.
Aye.
And Commissioner Danielowski votes aye. That motion passes. Moving on, consider approval of the revised preliminary and final plat of Buck Run LLC. Nancy.
It's in Baldwin Township in the General Rural District and within the Natural Environment Shoreline District. Planning Commission recommended approval of this request with the 9 conditions that are listed in your packet.
All right. Any questions for Nancy? If not, I'd be looking for an approval on that motion with the 9 conditions that are listed in the packet.
Madam Chair, I'll move approval with the 9 conditions.
Motion made by Commissioner Dolan,
I'll second.
seconded by Commissioner Phobie. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Commissioner Dolan,
Aye.
Commissioner Brandt,
Aye.
Commissioner Phobie,
Aye.
Commissioner Smeezing,
aye,
and Commissioner Danielowski votes aye. That motion passes. Moving on to the next item, consider the approval of the preliminary standard plat for Country Oak Meadows, JDA Builders LLC. Nancy.
This is in Baldwin Township. It's 6 lots on 20 acres in the General Rural District. Planning Commission recommended approval of this plat with the 5 conditions that are listed in your packet.
All right. Any questions for Nancy? Seeing none, I'd be looking for that motion then to approve that with the 5 conditions.
Yes.
Madam Chair, I'll move approval with the 5 conditions listed.
Motion made by Commissioner Dolan, seconded by Commissioner Brandt. Any further discussion?
Madam Chair, I just want to say there was a bit of interest in some of the neighbors that are in the development right across the street and concern with traffic on that road in addition to County Road 2. And I just appreciate staff's response to some of those neighbors and they working with some of those neighbors, and just that County 2 is going to be resurfaced in the next year because there will be, actually probably not, the traffic won't come in the next year, but soon. There's a lot of development going on in that area, in that northern end of Baldwin Township. So I appreciate staff's work with and connecting with the neighbors that had some concerns on that.
Thank you.
Thank you for those comments, Commissioner Phobie. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Commissioner Dolan,
Aye.
Commissioner Brandt,
Aye.
Commissioner Phobie,
Aye.
Commissioner Smeezing,
aye,
and Commissioner Danielowski votes aye. That motion passes. Moving on then to consider approval of the preliminary and final plat for Lindquist Acres North. And Nancy.
This is also in Baldwin Township, 11 acres in the General Rural District and within the Natural Environment Shoreline District of unnamed lake 710042. It's 3 lots. Planning Commission recommended approval of this plat with the 3 conditions that are listed in your packet.
All right, any questions for Nancy?
Madam Chair, I'll move approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Phobie, seconded by Commissioner Brandt. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Commissioner Dolan,
Aye.
Commissioner Brandt,
Aye.
Commissioner Phobie,
Aye.
Commissioner Smeezing.
Yeah, we got a little
Oh, there's a
yellow
little
exclamation
triangle.
point up there. Bad connection.
There
aye,
he is. Okay, Commissioner Smeezing votes aye. Commissioner Danielowski votes aye. That motion passes. All right, moving on then to consider the approval of the preliminary standard plat of Hunter Estates. Nancy.
This is also in Baldwin Township. It's on 38 acres in the General Rural District and within the Natural Environment Shoreline District. It's 5 lots. And Planning Commission recommended approval of this with the 7 conditions that are listed in your packet.
Any questions for Nancy? Hearing none, then I'd be looking for that motion with those 7 conditions as presented.
Madam Chair, I'll move approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Phobie,
I'll second.
seconded by Commissioner Dolan. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Commissioner Dolan,
Aye.
Commissioner Brandt,
Aye.
Commissioner Phobie,
Aye.
Commissioner Smeezing, Commissioner Smeezing, can you hear us?
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Danielowski votes aye. That motion passes. Okay, moving
Yes,
on.
aye.
Yep, we got your aye. Thank you. Moving on to consider the conditional use permit application for seasonal storage structure. Nancy?
Okay, the applicant is Carl Callahar. This is in Haven Township in the Agricultural District on 39 acres. Planning Commission recommended approval of this request with the 7 conditions listed, and they also did the findings of fact that were made at Planning Commission, and those are all in your packet.
All right. Any questions for Nancy? All right, hearing none, then I'd be looking for that motion to approve that application with the 7 conditions as presented.
Madam Chair, I'll move approval with the 7 conditions.
Motion made by Commissioner Dolan,
I'll second.
seconded by Commissioner Phobie. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Commissioner Dolan?
Aye.
Commissioner Brandt? Aye. Commissioner Phobie?
Aye.
Commissioner Smeezing? Did you say aye? Buffering.
Frozen.
Now we lost him.
Oh, we
Okay,
got
I
it.
heard aye. Commissioner Smeezing
I'm
voted
gonna try
aye.
to come in at
We heard you. And Commissioner Danielowski votes aye. That motion passes. Moving on then to consider the approval of the preliminary and final simple plat of Benson Estates. Nancy?
This is in Livonia Township on 15 acres in the General Rural District and within the Shoreline District Public Water, which is a natural environment lake. Planning Commission recommended approval of this with the 1 condition that's listed in your packet.
All right, any questions for Nancy? If not, then I'd be looking for that motion to approve that with the 1 condition as listed.
Madam Chair, I'll move approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Phobie,
I'll second.
seconded by Commissioner Dolan. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Commissioner Dolan?
Aye.
Commissioner Brandt? Aye. Commissioner Phobie?
Aye.
Commissioner Smeezing?
aye.
And Commissioner Danielowski votes aye. That motion carries. All right, I think that's it for Planning Commission. Thank you, Nancy. All right, moving on, then, our next item on the agenda is to consider and approve the school district tax abatement letter.
Good morning.
Dan?
Good morning, Commissioners. Just a little background before, or on RBA in front of you. Can you bring up the spreadsheet, Keisha? Do you have that? We have received a 12-year tax abatement
me,
financing
Daniel.
application
Oh.
from,
Dan?
Madam Chair, I'm going to abstain from this.
Okay,
due to
thank you.
conflicts.
okay, we have received a 12-year tax abatement financing application from Sport Tech. The project entails a 91,000 square foot expansion on the same property as their existing building, and it would create a minimum of 85 new jobs. We do have a public hearing scheduled for March 2nd to discuss the project. If approved, following the March 2nd public hearing, the new project would first become taxable in payable year 2023. They already have an existing abatement on this property, so I did put a chart here so you can kind of see what it would look like. The existing building would get a tax abatement for 12 years under our current agreement. Then there would be a 6-year overlap, and then the new addition would get an additional 12 years. So if you add it together, it would be 18 years that it would be receiving an abatement on the same property. So by statute, the county board can authorize up to 15 years on the same property unless they get a letter of denial to participate from one of the other, either the city or the school. So today, staff is here seeking permission from the board to send the school district a letter on their intent to participate in the abatement project. So if approved today, staff would send the letter to a school district. If they deny, we could go up to the 18 years. And if they choose to participate, then we would knock off 3 years from our abatement for discussion on the 3rd, or on the 2nd, I'm sorry.
Okay. Any questions of Dan? Hearing none, then I would be looking for that motion to approve this request.
Madam Chair, I'll move approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Phobie and seconded by Commissioner Brandt. Any further discussion? Hearing none, then we'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Brandt? Aye. Commissioner Phobie?
Aye.
Commissioner Smeezing?
Aye.
And Commissioner Danielowski votes aye, and then we have one abstention. That motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. All right, next item. To consider and approve the 2021 score line item budget. Dave, are you handling this one?
Madam Chair, I'm going to have Gabby in my office come up and present this.
All right. Good morning, Gabby.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Okay, the proposed score budget line item was reviewed and recommended by the Solid Waste Advisory Committee. The proposed budget is similar to last year and includes various programs that provide for recycling and landfill abatement initiatives. Different from last year, staff is proposing to match 50% of the SCORE grant monies to provide for a business recycling program. We know businesses generate a lot of waste and recyclable materials. If approved, businesses can apply for funding assistance to purchase recycling receptacles to capture that recyclable material. Staff would work with the businesses to help determine the needs and the placement of the receptacles to ensure the success of the program. Staff is seeking the approval of the SCORE line item budget and various grant programs. If approved, those grant agreements would be sent out via DocuSign.
All right. Any questions for Gabby? We did have a lot of discussion as well in regards to enhancing our ability to provide cardboard recycling because of the situation where cardboard has become more of a byproduct due to the amount of online shopping and such. So that is something that we're working on enhancing for that ability for our communities. So
Yep.
Other than that, it was pretty much business as usual on the SCORE grant funds.
Yep.
All right, thank you, Gabby. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I would be looking for a motion then to accept the SCORE grant funds as presented.
I would so move.
Motion made by Commissioner Brandt,
I'll second, Madam Chair.
seconded by Commissioner Dolan. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Commissioner Dolan,
Aye.
Commissioner Brandt,
Aye.
Commissioner Phobie,
Aye.
Commissioner Smeezing,
Aye.
and Commissioner Danielowski votes aye, and that motion carries. Thank you. Moving on then to consider our county response for fiscal year 2025 District 7W State Block Grant Program. Solicitation and TAC recommendation results. Andrew.
Morning, Madam Chair, County Commissioners. Appreciate the opportunity to have a discussion with the County Board this morning in regards to, I guess, what I consider some concerning issues that we're dealing with in District 7W and some of the project fundings that we typically see. I will absolutely apologize in advance because this gets a little complicated. I'm going to do my best to simplify it as best as possible, and hopefully we can get through this. I'm hoping Bruce will help keep me on task and don't let me get down a rabbit hole that I shouldn't be going down. Good, got a thumbs up over there. Let me just start off by saying District 7W is the region in which we look to get our regional planning and federal dollars solicited to us. It's the areas outside of Haven Township and covers the remainder of the county. So it's one of our primary sources for project funding, certainly federal funds. The committee is set up, as many times they are, with a TAC committee, a technical advisory committee made up of local engineers, some transit individuals, and we review the technical merits in this situation of the applications annually as they come in and then make our recommendation to, in this case, the Transportation Policy Board. Transportation Policy Board is made up of commissioners for Benton, Stearns, Sherburne, and Wright County, along with a couple of their respective cities, depending on the size of the county. So, excuse me. In short, kind of the way this solicitation worked out this year, we submitted 2 projects. There was 2 of 7 projects submitted in the entire District 7W region. we submitted County Road 4 through Zimmerman, which is a resubmittal for the third year in a row. Hoping to move up and do some added work, which we had completed through the corridor study specific to this corridor. The other project that we submitted was a new project that we submitted and that we're working on right now is County Road 43, just north of Highway 10 in Big Lake. As I mentioned earlier in the conversation, from my perspective, we're dealing with a very flawed system that we have in place in regards to District 7W and that selection, at no fault of any one individual. But some of the things that we see affecting, you know, the $3.5 million that gets allocated every year is the fact that there is one person rating all of these applications. 7 applications, one individual does the ratings. It's a MnDOT employee, a MnDOT planner. He does a very good job. The reason I bring that up is because those applications are then given to TAC only at the time of the meeting, not even at the beginning of the meeting, when the agenda item comes up. We have 0 time to review those ratings and those scores before we have to then present a recommendation for vote to the TPB, the Transportation Policy Board. The other issue that we run into is nobody on the Technical Advisory Committee has ever seen the application. We're not provided those applications to review in advance, just like we're not provided the scores in advance to review. So we're essentially going into this cold, and over the course of about 5 minutes, being asked to provide a recommendation on the project merits to the TPB to fund these $3.5 million. Those are the big underlying issues that I see. What ended up happening this year is, let me go back. I got a lot of thoughts going on in my head. One of the other concerns is the makeup of the TAC, the Technical Advisory Committee. There are 19 members on the Technical Advisory Committee. It's much larger than the Transportation Policy Board. Transportation Policy Board, I believe, has about 12, if I remember correctly. Of those 19 TAC committee members, 7 of them are from Wright County. If you want to include the Wright County Transit System, the Trailblazers, that's 8. So 8 of the 19 are from Wright County. Sherburne County has 4 representatives. If you include TRICAP, that would be 5. Stearns has 2, Benton has 2. So let's just do the simple math. 19 people, if we allocate funds to 2 projects each year, which is typically what we do, you have 7 votes from Wright. You've got a minimum of 2 votes from one other county. That's 9 votes, that's majority. They can do whatever they want. They can vote in whatever projects they want because that second place project is going to vote along with them. So the compromise of that Technical Advisory Committee is skewed from my perspective. Okay, now moving on, I apologize. Now moving on to this year's applications. When we came in and we were provided those ratings, I call them ratings because they're not actually scores. What they do is there's like 8 different categories and you get a low, medium, or high in each one of those categories. We get those ratings. Sherburne County's projects, sorry Tim, I can see you yawning over there.
What are you talking about?
I know. I don't blame you, honestly.
Hang in there. It gets better.
Right? Coffee.
It's not the content, I assure you.
Right. The 2 highest ranked projects coming out of those initial rankings were our 2 projects. They were our County Road 4 and our County Road 43. We had 5 highs and I believe 2 or 3 mediums in all of those.
And just for clarification, Andrew, and those are always based on the technical merit of the project.
Correct. Correct.
And they were rated, this was the rating by the MnDOT employee.
Yep. Objective, non-biased. Not to get into the details, but then what ended up happening over the course of about I don't remember the exact time, but it seemed about 45 minutes. There was the insertion of some discussion in regards to cost justification and equity. In this situation, equity specifically refers to the last time that an organization has received federal dollars through this solicitation. So what ended up happening is there was this convolution of cost justification and equity, of which a couple of the projects fully admitted, both in the meeting as well as in a follow-up email, that they did not include anything as far as cost justification, yet they were ranked at a medium. What ended up happening is a complete reversal of the ratings, and at the end of the discussion, our two projects were then ranked 4 and 5 out of 7. And the project that ranked first after the discussion was originally ranked at, I believe, number 4. Happened to be a Wright County project that went from 4th up to 1st.
Andrew, quick
Yes.
question. So this conversation, this is at the TAC committee level right now?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
All right.
And maybe just to clarify that, the Transportation Policy Board, the reason we wanted to get in front of you guys today is the Transportation Policy Board meets this Friday.
Okay.
Rayanne Danielowski is our representative. Mayor Stay, who we've now heard is planning on being in attendance, is a representative for the quote-unquote Sherburne County cities, as is Mayor Dietz from Elk River.
And for clarification, Andrew, can we back it up one little bit?
Yep.
In regards to the tax recommendation and role over the history of this process, they have never really put equity and funding into the mix of their decision process, correct?
Correct. I appreciate you bringing that up, Madam Chair. That was something I was going to get into anyhow. We'll talk about it right now. Equity in the past has always been a differentiator between two equal projects. You have two equal projects, two equal scores, ratings. Then you go and you take a look at the equity portion, which is, okay, who hasn't received federal funds most recently? That would be the differentiator between the two projects that have been ranked equally.
So that's like a tiebreaker then?
Correct.
That's what you use for that?
Yep, easiest way to state it would be it's a tiebreaker in the end if needed. This year it ended up becoming one of the ranked criteria. I struggle with that because I don't know that that's a technical merit that the tax should be rating. I believe that's something that should be held for the Transportation Policy Board that can talk about geographic equity at that level. We are assigned to review the technical merits of the projects. Some of the other concerns that I've expressed via email to Administrator Messelt are project specific, not only to the quality of our projects, but also the issues and concerns that I see with some of the other projects that were ranked much higher than ours were. Maybe just very briefly, the '1 project this year ranked dead last year. I had an opportunity to compare the two applications of that organization from last year. Minimal content change. Again, a lot of that was based through discussion at the TAC level, through conversation. A lot of that was seemed to be a lot of vocal opinions from Wright County and the Wright County cities. So what we're looking for approval today is to provide a letter to District 7W in regards to our, at this point I'll call it discontent. Some of the issues that I've brought up along with some of the more technical items that Administrator Messelt and I have been talking about over the last couple of days, as well as Commissioner Danielowski. We're looking for the board's support in doing so. And if I may, I don't want to speak directly for Madam Chair Danielowski, but I think we're looking for that support as we go into the Transportation Policy Board meeting. That it's not just one or two commissioners, that it's the entire county board that's concerned with this process and the way this year's solicitation maybe specifically has played out.
And that's what I would like to refer to as a letter of concern as to how the process evolved and stepped outside of the normal history of the process for the TAC committee.
Correct.
And what Andrew is speaking to as well in regards to not getting this information, we at the board of the 7W don't, I got my packet, the recommendations of the TAC committee are not in it because we will not get it till Friday, the day of the meeting, even though the TAC board has met, already made their recommendations to move forward. And in this day and age of technology, I would think that those could be easily forwarded to the body of the board to have some understanding of what is going to be asked of them, because we will get it the same way that you guys got it at TAC, last minute. All right. Anything else you wanted to add to that before I have asked for questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't think I do. I just maybe want to give, if I could, Administrator Messelt an opportunity if he had any additions before we open it up to questions.
Thank you, Chair Danielowski, members of the commission. I think that concept of a letter of concern is appropriate. The tone and the tenor would be obviously be very professional and fact-based, and would just serve as a point of hopeful discussion at the policy board. But with that, I think the larger issues are something the policy board will have to discuss in terms of whether the makeup or the voting structure changes. Really, our concern is the addition of the equity criteria this year. Not sure it'll make a difference, other than just to note again that perhaps Sherburne County is a bit concerned with the way the process played out this year.
Any questions?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Smeezing.
just a couple questions. Who was in attendance from Sherburne County at the TAC committee meeting? Were you there, Andrew?
Yes, I was there, Commissioner Smeezing. So we also
Okay.
had representatives from our cities who had to leave early because the meeting ran so long. We had Justin Femeray from the city of Elk River, Kevin Bittner from the city of Zimmerman, Lane Ottitson from the city of Big Lake.
Okay. Now, with the system as it was used before, we have done pretty well, right?
Yes.
Past few years.
Correct.
So, okay. How's the TAC? Is there some friction among the members of the TAC committee that
Madam
is
Chair, Madam Chair, Commissioner Smeezing, I would say this year there was, because of the changes that were made on the fly without the approval of the Transportation Policy Board, and without the approval of the TAC.
Okay.
Historically, there hasn't been. Historically, we've worked pretty well together in regards to this, but there was a number of things that just ended up getting changed on the fly. And even the criteria within the rankings and ratings changed during the meeting.
Okay. I'll just weigh in quick, and then I think we should be, we certainly probably want to engage here and talk a little bit about it, but I also caution us that we be pretty careful and pretty gentle, because ultimately it is you go through the technical committee, but then it goes to the policy board, and it does become a bit of a political play at some point. And sounds like it's happening a little early now, but it will happen at the next step. So as well, and can happen. So I think we want to be careful that we don't alienate everyone, because at the end of the day, you need to prevail with this, you need your neighbors and your partners on those boards to work with you and get along. And if you are unable to accomplish that, you will be kind of behind the eight ball with it. So hopefully we can raise our concerns and make sure that we continue to work on our relationships with the partners in those areas. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments, Commissioner Schmeezing. Commissioner Phobie?
Just a few comments also. So I've been in conversation with Mayor Stay about this. He is going to be at the meeting on Friday. There will be some changes on the policy committee due to Jake Bowerly's transition out of commissioner, as well as Michael Potter. And that's another interesting aspect. They have their board packet, yet they don't even know who's going to be there at the meeting Friday yet. So there's just, I would ask for the policy or whatever level is supposed to look at how this is put together. I think it's a good time to, I'm guessing it's, the membership is by population, you know, there's a reason for this, there's a method, look through those bylaws, see how it's put together, but just how information is given to these committees. This is not, I don't think it's appropriate for people to get and have 3 minutes to look at it and give good, productive opinions and conversations. So I would ask that that be looked at, whatever level it's supposed to be looked at on, and I do support this letter of concern. I have a question. When is the last time we as a county have received money through this mechanism?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Phobie, last year.
Okay, that's what I thought.
And if I may add a little editorial comment, we score very well in this solicitation because we do have needs. As you've heard me say before, we've got a lot of metropolitan needs and concerns and issues that we're trying to address. So we're competing against projects that are coming from more rural situations. So we compete very well in the solicitation because of the ranking criteria and because of the projects that we have and the needs that we have.
Yep. And it isn't that Wright County has, they've done well too. I mean,
Correct.
They just got a project that was over by their school in Buffalo. And that was just within the last, a year ago or two.
I believe that was, I can't remember. I'm not going to say it was 1 or 2 years ago. You're correct.
I think the the point is, and I hear what Commissioner Schmeezing is saying, that we definitely, this is an entity that has worked well together because they've kind of followed certain guidelines. They've followed processes where TAC is in charge of technical. TAC does not get involved in the equity or the funding dollar distribution. They're just ranking on the merit of the technical needs of the project. Then it goes to the 7W Policy Board. Now, we'll have that discussion as electeds as to how we make sure we maintain this ability to work together. It's discussed a lot to make sure that we're doing our best to acknowledge each county's needs, and everybody will get their opportunity. And we do well doing it that way. My concern is we're going to, by going outside of the process that we've worked with, that is going to create the issue of having problems then at the policy board, because you just have to have some structure in how you go about doing these things and working together, because our relationships are very important. But my concern is I'm starting to hear and see some things that could challenge that foundation of this structure in different ways, that different projects are being submitted, and one entity submits a project that is a couple-mile project, but they submit it in 2 segments, but it's contiguous. But that way, then they can have better chance of getting a project funded. So those are things I think we need to be cautious going into the future. Everybody knows that money is tight, and we get very little. The needs are greater than the funds. We're used to that. That's always the case. But we've always done well at working together in making sure we are being fair to each other. And if it isn't this year, your project will then be, looked at next year. And I just don't want to see TAC be that entity that uses those things that the policy board usually is in charge of doing those discussions.
Correct.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Dolan.
All right, so I've never sat on this committee, so I just want to make sure I kind of have a little bit of an understanding on how this sets. So the MnDOT representative, the scoring criteria that they use to score these projects is established by who? As far as how they analyze them for technical needs?
Yep, good question. So, Madam Chair, Commissioner Dolan, so typically that has been approved by the TAC as well as the TPB in the past.
Okay,
So there is a scoring assessment sheet that they use as an assessment.
okay, so MnDOT uses that scoring sheet, then it moves on to TAC based on that scoring sheet, and then TAC uses a different scoring sheet, or they're looking at the same criteria?
They're looking at the same criteria.
Okay, and then TAC's opinion and what they push on is supposed to be based on that criteria. And
Correct.
it sounds like essentially the consternation is between MnDOT and TAC, essentially TAC saying to MnDOT that you didn't use the scoring sheet right, we're gonna override it and do our own assessment. Would that be
Correct.
accurate?
Certain counties, yeah, had that opinion this
Okay.
year.
All right.
Which has never been an opinion in the past.
Yeah, and I understand that. I'm just trying to figure out, like, I understand the kind of the mess it feels like right now. I'm just trying to determine where that mess came from. And so the policy board, they adopt that scoring criteria and pass it on to TAC, or does TAC adopt its own scoring criteria?
No, the policy board approves that scoring criteria as well as TAC.
Okay.
And just for, the policy board lost two very strong members of that committee. And it was Mike Potter for Wright County and Jake Bowerly for, Benton. And they were very much involved and very strong members. And so I don't know if this was viewed as, and they would be to what Felix is talking about. They would be more geared around making sure we understand, we're all working together, we're all trying to figure, to be equal and share. I'm not quite sure if maybe TAC is that entity, and I definitely know they shouldn't be getting involved in that entity of it. Technical is their expertise. That's what their job is to bring to the table for recommendation. So I do hear what you're saying, Felix. I definitely understand that we have to be, we want to all be playing nice in the sandbox that's got a very limited amount of toys to play with. So sharing is definitely the key.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
If I could follow up. So based on what you said, Andrew, there wasn't just a little bit of shift. There was a substantial shift between TAC and MnDOT, the opinions of the two.
Correct.
Or the opinion as a whole. I'm not meaning to say that everybody on TAC agreed with the decision, but the majority. But there was substantial shift and deviation between what MnDOT suggested and what TAC is pushing forward.
Correct. Even during the meeting, Madam Chair, Commissioner Dolan, MnDOT continued to provide their reasoning and justification for what they did, which was, from my perspective, legitimate, and it was being argued by some TAC members. And then MnDOT then changed their philosophy during the meeting as a result of that, which again, from my perspective, is not consistent with the scoring criteria that had been approved by TAC and the TPB.
So, sorry, just trying to track. So the comments from TAC caused our MnDOT representative to change their scoring or their opinion?
During the meeting, they had the spreadsheet up during the meeting and started manipulating and changing it and modifying it, and not just the ratings themselves, but adding categories and columns and things like that.
And is that normal practice, MnDOT
No.
changing
No.
their opinion within the meeting?
In the 4 or 5 years that I've been on the committee, I've never seen that before.
Okay.
I've never
In
seen.
about the 12 years I've been. No.
All right. Yeah, I guess, you know, all said and done, I'm in favor of sending the letter of concern. It sounds like the policy board more or less is gonna need to take a stand and make sure that policy is being followed and the guidelines are being followed. It sounds like every step of the way, essentially, something broke down and someone went off what should be, technical analysis shouldn't have that much variation, and at least in my experience, to where 19 engineers, I mean, getting 19 engineers to agree is a big push,
That's way too many cooks in
but
that.
getting 19 engineers to
kitchen.
agree on criteria and the meanings of that criteria usually isn't that tough.
Correct.
Right.
So yeah, I share the concern. I understand the political ramifications and how we need to be tactful with it, but to me, it's a simple question of we broke protocol.
Yes.
All the way from, you know, I'd make sure that MnDOT, I have the biggest problem with that. If MnDOT scoring something comes into TAC, and TAC is, in theory, not a political part of this, and then based on that, MnDOT's changing its opinions, it calls into question the integrity of that piece as well. So I definitely have concern. We just got to navigate it with care, but it seems like a little bit of a breakdown.
Yes, and the TAC, and that's all been by design, and I think that's why this body has worked so well. When you bring different counties together of different population sizes, different needs, bringing this body together to work together is always going to be a challenge, but because of the way everything had been set up, it has worked. When it comes to policy board, has there been some strong discussion at times? Yes, but that is of the electeds to figure that out and work together on coming to that solution. So I don't view it as the tax job to be that.
Right.
They're just there to technically rate the merits.
And my worry is that the technical merits of something shouldn't be much of a debate. Like the debate at the policy level, once it gets up to the committee, debating equity and how stuff's distributed over time, that's gray area, but the technical analysis of these projects shouldn't be up for debate for the most part.
All right, any other
Madam
questions?
Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Smeezing.
It just, yeah, it sounds like they really shifted gears on this. Our other county counterparts, our Stearns, Wright, Benton, were the county engineers there and were they okay with this?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Schmeezing, I'm glad you brought that up because I was actually going to interject a little bit in regards to that. When the final vote came to be, there's two people that objected to it. One was myself. The other one was our MnDOT state aid representative, who's a different arm of MnDOT. They essentially work for the counties. He voted no as well, and I asked him after the fact why he voted no. And he specifically stated because he did not agree with the process and he did not agree with what happened this year. Again, an unbiased opinion. He does not sway towards any one particular county entity or agency. So that was interesting. I also got communication within minutes after the vote happening. And I can tell you that that individual specifically said, I wanted to vote no, but I couldn't because I'd be voting against the funding of my project. Their project got funded. They didn't agree with the process either, but they needed to vote yes so that their project got funded.
Does that answer your question, Commissioner Smeezing?
Well, it does, but you know, it's concerning that, you know, we have some relationship and role understanding problems the way it looks. So, but
Yeah.
you know, unless we all got to row together, so somehow we've got to work our way through it. And I'm sure with the transition that's going on with losing a couple of pretty strong transportation advocates, and that is probably going to take its toll in the short term, so.
Yeah, and I just don't want to see it take a toll in a negative way. We definitely need to stay together and work together. That's the only way this is going to work. Otherwise, it's not going to survive.
Absolutely, I agree, because if we square off and fight, we lose. I don't think there's any other outcome, you know, we gotta work our way through it. But, I don't think we have a lot of weight to throw around.
No, but I agree with that, but I always look at it as, put yourself in the other person's shoes. Would you want it to be done to you? And at any given time, it can be done to you. And so, do you want to stand up and stick with the way the policy and the structure has always worked? Or do we want to go off the rails and totally change how the process has always worked in the past?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
do we simply need consensus on the drafting of this
Yes.
letter, or do we need a motion?
Or do you want
Since
to
it's on the agenda, consensus of the board is sufficient, and I will work with Andrew and draft a letter, and if the board's permission, the chair can sign it.
Does that work?
Madam Chair, that works for me. That's great. And I really appreciate your historical perspective also on this, Rayanne. I'm really glad that you're on it and you'll be there Friday, just with that historical 12 years.
Yeah.
I've not seen this happen. So I think that's going to be beneficial. And
it is, and we're in the transition process of, like Felix referred to, losing some pretty, very solid, strong, even when Commissioner Peterson served on it. I mean, that was, I watched them all work, and it worked well. Did we always agree? No, but we worked well together, and that was always the goal, to make sure that it was all done in a process of knowing that we need to share these funds and be as equitable as we can. Yes.
who serves on that from Stearns County, Commissioner?
Joe Piskey.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so by consensus then, we'll be sending, drafting that letter of concern to go to the policy board this Friday.
Yeah, Madam Chair, one more thing, and I'll make it quick. The one thing we didn't really address in our conversations was, we kind of touched on it, but the flow of information availability. I don't know if that's a policy that needs to be adopted by the policy committee, but that doesn't seem logical by any stretch of the imagination when you're making decisions day of, with information you get day of.
Yes, especially big decisions like this, so.
And that should be an easy policy adjustment. I can't imagine anyone being against that, so.
Sometimes bringing MnDOT into the 21st century is always an interesting, they've gotten better, but I think there's ways to go that we can get that information sooner by all means. All right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Andrew.
All right, moving on to our next item on our agenda is our COVID-19 update and our county response. Nicole.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm going to start us off, and then Amanda's going to take us into a little bit more about our field operation guide, so our FOG. The data today, again, really highlighting the 14-day formula here, so really seeing a nice trending downward since that November date. We are doing well within the 20s. So that is a great sign. We do know that testing has kind of been on and off, but overall it's been very stable. If you want to go to the next slide. Oh, I have a clicker. There we go. Our 2-week case rates, again, is seeing a really nice steady decline or maintaining of those rates. I think the lowest in the teens that we've seen for quite some time, probably since August. So that's exciting to see. And then overall, when we compare ourselves to some of our surrounding counties, again, we're really faring well at the 22.2. Some of our neighboring counties are a little bit higher, but really all between that 15 and 26 rate. Some new data around vaccines, though, I think this is probably important to highlight. So those in Sherburne County, we're looking at about 6,700 who have had at least one vaccine, and that's about 7.2% of our population. And those that have had both in the series, about 2,200, so about 2.4%. And you can kind of see how that's ramped up over the last few weeks. And again, here in February, we've had a little bit lower allocations as some of our partners in the pharmacy sector have gotten some of those doses from the CDC. There's a little add-on in the bottom corner there too, the people 50 plus with at least one vaccine dose. So for Sherburne County, we're looking about 23% of those 65 plus have gotten at least one dose of the vaccine, and about a little less than 10 for that 50 to 64 age range. For us here internally for public health, currently we have about 220 doses on hand, and those are allocated to be out the door hopefully by the end of today, with a few remaining for some additional second dose clinics. Overall, we've given 780 first doses here and 400 of the full series for a total of 2,180 doses by Sherburne County Public Health. So when you think about those last numbers I showed you on the last slide, we're giving about 24% of the vaccines here in Sherburne County. So our partners in the healthcare setting and pharmacies are about 75% of those doses.
Can I interrupt real quick, just with a quick question
Sure.
on vaccines and how, are these numbers Sherburne County residents, or are they vaccines allocated to Sherburne County, or are they synonymous?
Allocated to Sherburne County, although we do serve across the county line. So I don't have a great number on how we track that at this point. Just know in our statewide numbers and our allocations, this is who
Okay,
we've served.
thank you for the clarification.
I have asked some of those questions and I haven't gotten a real specific answer back. So I'm guessing it will come at some point, but just not quite ready yet.
Yeah, it's just one of those gray areas in some of this data. It leads you to draw some assumptions, and I just want to make sure that I don't draw the wrong one, so.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We are not limited to giving vaccine only to Sherburne County residents. So if there are in our interest form or they live or work in our county, we are obligated to do that. So the clinic Find My Vaccine map for community clinics has been updated, and so there's some new partners in the area that are now getting vaccines. So I think the newest ones, Walmart in Elk River and Walgreens in Anoka. They have varying degrees of how they get that vaccine out. Many of them are calling existing clients and having them schedule. Some are utilizing MyCharts or online scheduling. So it really kind of varies throughout the county. In the last slide, the Minnesota Department of Health has been trying to get a little more clarity on how well we are doing with that 72-hour timeline and the 7-day timeline. So this is just a snippet from local public health and how well we're doing in that 72-hour window. And on the right on the graph, you can't see Sherburne County in there, but we're buried in there somewhere. When you pull out the table, it shows us at 100%. And that was last week with our 1,641 doses that were given.
Where does Hennepin County fall on that? I see Anoka.
I don't know specifically. I would have to pull up the table again. I would say, though, that the majority of public health are between that 90 and 100, so that's good news. What we're getting out quickly. For this week's allocations, we were notified that with the cold weather, the CDC may be delaying some shipments by a day or two, so we are still planning for a clinic on Thursday with a dose that we expect to be delivered tomorrow, but we may have to change that at the last minute if we do not get those allocations in time.
What's that projected dose amount, Nicole?
300. 100 for our 1A group that continues to have participants that sign up for that, and then 200 for our E through 12 and childcare.
Okay. And then we're still meeting our second dose needs as well.
Correct. Those are coming in different allocations now. Before they would come in one shipment, and now they're coming in separate shipments, so it's a little easier to track.
Oh, good. Okay.
Any other questions? All right.
Morning, Commissioners.
I just wanted to address one thing. Keisha, I don't know if you want to pull up the field operations guide, or FOG, for another acronym for you. As of late, we have been receiving lots of questions about just clinic operations, how decisions are made, and it's coming from all directions. It's coming from department heads, it's coming from county employees, it's coming from the community at large. So really, we really want to operate under the auspice of integrity and transparency, because decisions aren't getting made in a corner or by one or two individuals. Really, we are operating under MDH guidance and recommendations, and that's pretty clear cut. But just want to put it out on paper, codify it, and then submit it to you. So again, everybody knows how those decisions are getting made. The field operations guide, if you had a chance to look forward, it's fairly dry. It really is on vaccine operations. But in terms of the questions that we try to, that we're getting a lot, that we codified in here, is how clinics get determined. So how we're determining who gets vaccinated from week to week. Our standby list, there's been a lot of questions on the standby list because, again, if folks are getting deferred, if folks no-show, or again, if we have uneven appointments, which we try to avoid, versus doses in the vial. That's kind of our last minute list, if you will. Also volunteers. We've had a great response from Minnesota Responds volunteers. Most of them are retired healthcare personnel who live or work in Sherburne County or have worked, but a few of them are family and friends of different government center staff, and so really wanted to be transparent just on how volunteers get solicited, how they get registered, and then when a clinic is opened, how volunteers sign up for that clinic. And also, we think that that's as important just as vaccines continue to ramp up. There's a number of people vaccine shopping. So again, the list, I can't even tell you how many hours, staff hours, are spent on this list, but the list is always moving, always changing. And again, we're giving our best faith attempt at following the MDH guidelines and prioritization. And again, we do a really good job on that. But just again, wanting to, as we move into offsite clinics or general population, or even the 1B population that was put on hold with that large swath of essential workers, there's always folks that have opinions about who should be getting vaccinated first or who should be prioritized. And it's really, I wish it was that simple, but it's not. So again, just wanting to codify that in the field operations guide. So before I answer any questions, again, clinics are determined based on what MDH has said our priorities are. Right now, our priorities are 65 and older and E through 12 educators, but kind of the underlying message is that because more and more hospital systems and pharmacies are coming online, their directive really is to focus on that 65 and older population. So by nature, we're really focusing on the childcare population and then the K through 12 educators, and we're making really good headway on that. So that's kind of why we're making decisions on working within those educators first. The standby list, we have had really good luck in the early days of vaccination. So last month, we were really focusing a lot on our correction officers, because a lot of times we're having evening clinics and they were here, and so it was very easy to put a call into jail admin and get a few correction officers down. And while they're absolutely top of mind, we're really trying to, again, work under MDH's prioritization. So right now, our standby list consists primarily of educators. So they've submitted their name. We haven't been able to get to them yet. We'll call them the day prior and say, hey, we're calling you. You've been identified. Could you get here within 30 minutes? This is when we're having that clinic. And so we've been doing that for the last few weeks, and that's been really, really successful. So again, circumventing that standby list, but also working under the prioritization guidelines. And then volunteers, Minnesota Response is our medical volunteering program. There's a lot of grant duties surrounded by that. That's a statewide program. And so we have a whole Minnesota Response guide. And so we're really working under the Minnesota Response. So folks who want to volunteer, directing them to the Minnesota Response website. There's also a link available on the Sherburne County website. They go through the orientation, they go through the background checks, and then when a clinic comes time, we'll send that link out to all Minnesota Response, and I think the commissioners are also getting that link as well. So again, trying to standardize that process as much as possible. And then with that, does anybody have any questions about the FOG or?
Commissioner Phobie?
Thank you. Not a question, just probably continue. My biggest concern is those people that have access to nothing. That I got a call yesterday. 94-year-old woman lives in her house, has no child that can help her with a computer, doesn't have a computer. Those people are getting missed. And I know they're not the masses and they're not the numbers, but I think somehow there's got to be a list out there that people 90 plus who live independently in our county, I'd offer to call them. Though I'm getting a call a week from those individuals. So I don't know what to tell them. I have put them on myself and used my email to get notified. So that's what I'm doing now when I get those calls. But my heart goes out to those people that live alone, that are the most vulnerable, really elderly people that don't have a lot of good support. So
I appreciate that, Commissioner. We talk about it constantly. We're really trying to walk the line that we're not advertising because, again, we have such a limited amount of vaccine, but at the same time, there are people who are not online, who don't fill the COVID interest form. And so we're in constant communication with our community, Dave Unzi, about how we can reach out to them, but at the same time, not.
And they get all their information through mail or the local newspapers.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? Yep. Bruce?
Very briefly on that note, one of your colleagues has asked that we prepare a flyer that can be distributed to churches, to community centers, that provides basic factual information. And as Amanda said, while we're not advertising it, those type of people will be given a number to call if they don't have computer access. We're really also trying, though, to temper false hope because, again, we're just getting very, very limited dosages. But the intent would be that the flyer can be downloaded, printed, distributed. Commissioners, you can take it. And then we will update that periodically with the information that we can.
I think that's a good thought, too, because by sending it to the churches, the parishioners know who their elderly population are as well. And they can reach out and assist them in getting into the system and getting them vaccinated, so.
Yeah, Madam Chair, and I think that tool will be good. It was requested by different council members from different cities. That, our city councils and our mayors didn't necessarily know how to answer all the questions they were getting. So I think the draft that we've put together will help inform those even more local elected officials, and then they can help answer those questions as well. I know there's, talk of the faith organizations and, your legions and VFWs doing their fish fries and things coming up like that where they can help get accurate information. But like Amanda said, the big piece is tempering expectations and making sure at least they know where to go to get the information. But we're doing our best. I think we just the more people we can educate on what exactly is going on, especially our other elected officials in the county, can help us lift that burden a little bit as well, so.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
and I was this 94-year-old woman that I was talking with yesterday, once we went to 65 plus, I mean, that just threw her out of the water, and I was explaining how many more people that includes, unfortunately. Also, veterans services and the VAs are doing a great job vaccinating their veterans and reaching out to them, it seems. Most veterans that I've talked to, they're good.
I think too that the healthcare systems in particular are giving special prioritization to 75 and older. And so I think that might also be an opportunity.
I suggested that she call. She said she did. They know nothing.
That happens.
And it's
Madam
kind, oh, go ahead,
Go
Felix.
ahead, Felix.
Well, I mean, just briefly, I hope that we are in a short window of time here, that, you know, all of this, in the next month or 2 months that we have vaccine, and we're looking for people that are interested in taking it, because there is some resistance by some folks out there. So I hope we get through that. And then another, I'm glad to see that we are being very careful about following the rules and dispensing. And I certainly don't want to be among some of the political entities that have been accused of cherry picking and treating family members and doing things like that. That is not appropriate. And I'm glad that we are doing everything we can to prevent that. And playing it right down the center. So thank you.
Any other questions? Any other comments? All right, thank you.
With the board's consent, we would like to consider the field operations guide official and approved.
Looking for a motion then to adopt the field operations
If the board's
guide.
comfortable, either that or by consent, but it really helps us answer questions that we know it's been vetted. And then, of course, just like we do with our FAQs, if it's updated, we'll come back with changes to the board.
Yep, I had a chance to read through it. It looks like we've tried to hit everything and address things that have come up. So this will be a living, breathing document, basically.
Correct.
Madam Chair, as much as I despise additional acronyms, I will move the approval and adoption of the field operations guide.
All right, there is a motion by Commissioner Dolan. I'll second it. Seconded by Commissioner Brandt. Any further discussion? I'd just like to say thank you for working on this and always being willing to adjust and improve our process. So I agree with Felix. I think we are doing a very good job at making sure we're doing this as right as we can get right. So, all right, roll call vote. Commissioner Dolan.
Aye.
Commissioner Brandt. Aye. Commissioner Phobie.
Aye.
Commissioner Smeezing.
Aye.
Commissioner Danielowski votes aye. That motion passes. Thank you very much. Dan, did you have an update you wanted to clue us in on?
Yeah, I just want to give you a quick update on the business relief. As you recall, after the last meeting, we did open it up for another 10-day period. We did receive an additional 36 applications, so a total 173 applicants for the program. If you compare that to a 4-month period in CARES, there were 141 applicants. So we've greatly increased our applicant pool in a shorter amount of time, so it's been very successful. Second round awards so far are $212,000 for a total of about $850,000 that we've got out the door. Deadlines are an amazing thing, so a lot of those came in on Friday, and I haven't got through them all yet, so we have 15 more to review. So I'm anticipating over $900,000 that will be awarded through the first round. And then showing additional need, I have another column on my spreadsheet basically that looks at their losses. It looks like there's another $950,000 in losses. So you add up what we've already distributed plus what additional losses are, it almost equals our allotment to the dollar. It's pretty incredible how it worked out. You know, that's a lot of luck involved in that. But
You planned it, that wasn't luck.
I wish I could say I did, but it worked out really, really well. So by Friday, I'll have you a full summary of all the statistics, and then we'll probably get that last out the door money next week, next Friday. It'll go out based on what's remaining.
Perfect, yeah. I've talked to a few businesses that are very appreciative of this while they're waiting to see what the federal government is going to get done, and hopefully soon. All right, any questions for Dan? Oh, all right.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else to add, Bruce?
Not at this time.
All right, thanks. Okay, at this time, we'll move on to our commissioner correspondence. Who's ready to go? Commissioner Smeezing? Do you want to start, or do you want us to start on this end? No, maybe we'll start on this end. He can get ready. Who wants to go first?
I can start.
Okay. Commissioner Phobie, and then we'll go with Commissioner Smeezing after Commissioner Phobie.
I had AMC Futures meeting last Thursday and Friday, had my first law library meeting. We had a MICA meeting this last week. I had a TRICAP executive meeting. Lori Schultz, the executive director of TRICAP, has resigned. So we will be,
No.
yeah.
Oh, wow.
She took a job with Benton County Health and Human Services.
Okay.
Yes, so we will be starting a search process for a new ED for TRICAP. And then just a lot of activity with 7W information and the Board of Adjustment up in my end of the world. And then also I just want to mention the Buffalo Alina shooting next door to us here. Just, I was also on, which isn't part of this, but on a Central Minnesota Mental Health training when that all happened. And we have a clinic over there. And so just at 11 o'clock today, there is a moment of silence for solidarity with the Alina Health System. So just keep that in mind.
All right. Thank you. Commissioner Smeezy?
Okay, I had MESB meeting, Emergency Services Board. I also had MICA meeting. I had some meetings with AMC. I'm going to participate in their new commissioners conference tomorrow. So I've had a couple of meetings with them. And that's it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Commissioner Brandt, you ready?
Yeah, on the 3rd, I was at the Solid Waste Advisory Committee, and on the 4th, the Council on Aging Board meeting, and on the 5th, I listened in on a NACO HHS training on fighting food insecurity. And then on the 6th, I was at a meeting at the Legion talking about city and county issues with Mayor Dietz. And then on the 9th, a Board of Adjustment meeting, interviewed a candidate, and on the 10th, there was a Safe Roads meeting, and also a Healthy Minnesota Partnership meeting in the afternoon. And on the 12th was the First Steps Central Minnesota Joint Powers meeting, and also a SHAC meeting in the afternoon. And I guess that's about it.
Thank you. Commissioner Dolan?
Yeah, mine was relatively light load. I had Magic Fund. I was appointed as chair of that group for another year.
Congratulations.
And then, oh, thank you. And then participated in the Board of Adjustment interview as well with Commissioner Brandt. And other than that, most of my committees are this week. So pretty light.
All right. Thank you. I attended on February 3rd Solid Waste Advisory Board meeting with Commissioner Brandt. Also on February 8th, I had a Zoom meeting with the Homeless Priorities Coalition. This has evolved through our subcommittee, through the Government Priorities Committee at AMC. And I found it interesting that, and it was a lot of the greater Minnesota counties as well that were participating, because we all have homeless issues out here that just doesn't look the same as what we're used to seeing in the metro area as visibly. So it was a really good discussion. And then I found it interesting that in the Star News, they just so happened to have 2 homeless people that they addressed this last week in regards to one that had made a little camp with a little fire to stay warm through this period of time and was actually employed locally. And then another one was sleeping in their car and basically had said that he'll move on, but he was sleeping in his car and running his car. So we do have these issues here in our county as well. Also then attended virtually a Sherco Solar update in regards to what they're proposing to go forward to the another acronym, UPC?
PUC.
PUC, thank you very much. And that was a great, very interesting discussion as well. And February 11th, attended the APO meeting And then coming up, we all will, I'm assuming, be on the legislative AMC commit, or conference, virtually. These are very interesting. One thing I think we're all finding is the ability, this connection loss with fellow county commissioners, and not even having been able to meet the new ones, and making those relationships and stuff. It is definitely a loss of how you continue to create those working relationships and stuff, but we'll get through it. All right, I think that is about it. So that should conclude our meeting agenda. And we will go into opening the ditch authority meeting.
Madam Chair, if you want, a 5-minute break might be appropriate, just to let everybody stretch their legs.
Thank you.
Okay, 5-minute break. Good with that, Felix? Go water that palm tree. We'll be back at 10:30. Call to order our ditch authority meeting. First item on the agenda is to review and approve our ditch authority agenda for February 16th. Looking for a motion.
Move approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Phobie,
I'll second.
seconded by Commissioner Dolan. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Commissioner Dolan?
Aye.
Commissioner Brandt?
Aye.
Commissioner Phobie?
Aye.
Commissioner Schmeezing?
Aye.
And Commissioner Danielowski votes aye. That motion passes. Okay, now we are looking to receive and approve our ditch drainage technicians report. Mike,
Good morning, everyone.
I hear you have pictures too.
Actually, I have a couple drone videos, so
Oh,
sounds like you're gonna get your fill of drone information here today. Before I get started, are there any questions or comments regarding my written report?
No, sir.
I don't see any or hear.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna have to take the chair over there to run the videos.
Okay.
I'll start with branch 1A, ditch number 1. This is the ditch that we cleaned last fall.
And this is ditch number 1.
This is branch 1,
Branch
1A of ditch number 1.
Can you give us a location for visual, please?
This is just north of County Road 25, east of County Road 1 in Livonia.
All right, thank you.
What I thought.
As you can see, the spoil pile, it was really wet when we cleaned the ditch. So leveled it out as about as best as he could with the dozer, but we're gonna go back in the spring and clean it up some more. Level it out and then seed it. That's where we stopped, where you can see the green algae and the frozen. So we are going to clean the ditch from that point south through County Road 25 to County Road 1 this spring. Now,
Mike-
this is the main
Mike,
ditch.
can you go back on that one area where, so that one area back there where it, where the land mass was there, so that's the end of that?
Yep, right there's where we stopped. You can see where the end of the spoil pile is.
Mhm.
Yeah, but the land mass farther up here now, when we go farther up where it stops, and then you can see where the other ditch,
Yep, right here, this portion of the ditch we will clean this spring.
yep. And then right there where it stops, so is there, does that open up this area that we're gonna come to right there? Will that be opened up then?
Yep,
Okay,
yep, and this is the main ditch of ditch 1 that heads north towards Lake Fremont.
okay.
Mike, is there a culvert right now where that landmass is? I think
Yes, there
That's
is.
what Rian was asking.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I
There's a
understand. Yeah,
culvert that connects 1A to
So
1.
that'll stay then, the
Yep,
culvert will
it's
stay?
like this one here too, this is an agricultural
Okay.
crossing,
Got it,
private crossing.
thank you.
I just love being able to see this like this, Mike. This is great.
Yeah,
Mm.
the picture quality is amazing for just it's not even, I think he paid $3,500 for his drone.
You guys at staff must love this opportunity to view it from this standpoint too.
Yeah, it's really nice in areas where you really, it's not safe to walk. So it gives you a really good idea of what's in the ditch. As you can see, there's a lot of debris and a lot of clumps of grass and overgrown.
What usually is the length of time between when we do address ditches for getting them open back up? Is there like a period of time where once you go through, you won't be touching it again for how long?
I would say be 15 to 20 years.
Okay.
Speed this up. This is the drone coming back home.
Do we hire a person to do that?
Yeah, the person that I use is also the same guy that does the blasting of the
Okay,
dams.
okay.
He uses the drone a lot for looking for dams. If there's people that think there's a dam, he'll use the drone, and it saves a lot of time.
Is there some technique and is there some education and pilot instruction? I mean, certification that goes with this drone operation as well?
I don't think he has, no.
Okay,
He's pretty much self-taught, but he's done it a lot.
he does a good job.
Okay, this is ditch 6 at County Road 3. On County Road 3, just west of County Road 5. This is the area where there was a beaver dam and flooded. This is upstream from the beaver dam. I had them fly this to see if there was any more dams upstream. As you can see, it's pretty much to the top of the banks and pretty flooded.
It's amazing how some little creatures can do so much.
Yeah.
Did he find anything that was causing that to be at capacity there?
They had the just south of County Road 3, there was a series of a couple dams,
Okay.
and we did remove those. As you can see, this ditch is in very much need of maintenance, but none of the landowners have requested maintenance. So it seems to be, it functions fine. The water's a little higher than it should be, but it doesn't seem to bother the people until the beaver dam really backed the water up.
Do we normally wait for landowners to contact us, or do we have a process that we follow on maintaining the ditches?
Mostly it's through landowners that are receiving a hardship, but
Okay.
there are a few ditches that we have cleaned in the past
Okay.
that need it. Somebody did that on their own. That's not, somebody dug that pond there. When that was, I couldn't tell you.
So someone actually wanted to create an extra wetland on their land?
Yeah, maybe as a duck pond
Okay.
to attract wildlife. I'm not sure.
Well, it's theirs for life now.
Or to make a hockey rink.
Pardon?
Or to make a hockey rink.
Oh, that's a thought too.
Here's where he lost signal for a little bit, so the drone just kind of hung out there on its own for about 5 minutes.
Was there a little bit of nervousness going on?
Yes,
How you're
he
gonna
was
get it
very
back?
nervous.
Gonna run out of battery power and land.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where it stopped. Okay, this is south of County Road 3. This is farther in, this is well into the refuge. This is downstream. As you can see how flooded it is there because there's a couple beaver dams and that have been there for probably decades.
Now, if this is in the refuge, do we have to work with the DNR when we go through to do things in there?
Yeah, I actually did obtain, I had to obtain a permit from the wildlife refuge to work outside of our road right away.
Okay. Are they easily workable? I mean, do
Yeah.
they work? Okay.
Yep. Yep. That's an old dam right there. You can see the water's just going around it.
Yeah.
So is the green algae?
Yep.
And will the DNR potentially allow you to go in and take care of that dam?
They probably would, but it's so far in there that it's really not affecting the roadway.
Okay.
So, and it'd be really hard to get back there. Yep, there's the lodge.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And there's another large dam.
It is pretty cool to see it from these viewpoints.
Yeah. There's a pickup. Somebody was probably hunting that day. This is County Road 5,
Okay.
just south of County Road 3. Yeah, this is flying back.
Oh, that's great pictures. Up there, they are heading back home.
There's a dam right here that we removed, and there's another one right here that we removed.
And you remove those with explosives? right?
Yep, and I do have a video of that.
Of course you do. You like that part.
Yeah, it's,
Makes the day interesting, I bet.
yep, it sure does.
Beaver.
There's a beaver right here.
Oh, yeah. He just doesn't know what's coming.
Yeah.
Dear, better run. Whoa.
That's all I have. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Any questions for Mike? Felix, do you have any questions for Mike? Oh, doesn't sound like it.
No, I'm good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Mike.
So then we'd be looking for then a motion to approve the ditch drainage technician's report as presented.
I'll move approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Phobie,
I'll second.
seconded by Commissioner Dolan. Any further discussion? Oh, thank you for the pictures, Mike. That was very informative. Okay, roll call vote. Commissioner Dolan,
Aye.
Commissioner Baran,
Aye.
Commissioner Phobie,
Aye.
Commissioner Smeezing.
Aye.
Mr. Danielowski votes aye, and that motion passes. All right, moving on then to consider and amend our joint powers agreement with Mille Lacs County and Benton County Ditch Authority. Hello, Nancy. Oh, sorry.
That's a very nice compliment to me. I'm not sure how
I'm
Nancy's
so
gonna
sorry,
think.
Kathy.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners.
Welcome.
The document that you have before you is really a reiteration or an iteration that you've seen before. What had happened was, when they first were looking at reassessments on Mille Lacs County Ditch Number 1, they determined at that time, based upon the documentation that they had had, that the ditch, the benefited properties actually extended into Sherburne County. They then went out and did field work, and they found out that Benton County lands were also part of the benefited lands. So that required us to amend the joint powers agreement to include Benton County. I worked with Mr. Walsh, who's the Mille Lacs County attorney, Michelle Meyer, who is the assistant in Benton County, and myself to come up with the agreement. The two changes that you will see is, number one, Benton County now has one of the votes for commissioners. So there's still 5 individuals, 1 Sherburne, 1 Benton, 3 with Mille Lacs. So that's changed. And other than that, not a great deal, other than just including Benton County in terms of communication, et cetera. So that would continue to leave Commissioner Schmeezing as the primary, and then the alternate for Sherburne County would be Commissioner Phobie. So that's really the extent of the changes that you're seeing. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Any questions for Kathy?
Pretty straightforward.
Yep. Commissioner Smeezing, any questions?
Oh, that looks fine.
All right,
Did it?
then I would be looking then for a motion to approve amending the joint powers agreement with Mille Lacs County and Benton County Ditch Authority.
I'll make that motion, Madam Chair.
Motion made by Commissioner Smeezing,
I'll second.
seconded by Commissioner Phobie. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Commissioner Dolan,
Aye.
Commissioner Brandt,
Aye.
Commissioner Phobie,
Aye.
Commissioner Smeezing,
Aye.
and Commissioner Danielowski votes aye. That motion passes.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, with that being said, then, that concludes our business for the Ditch Authority meeting. So I will now adjourn that meeting and open our workshop meeting. And first,